You're listening to the ALC podcast, recorded at the American Language Center in Oujda, Morocco. Be sure to like us on Facebook and check out all our episodes on SoundCloud at the ALC podcast. Enjoy.
Brain drain, education abroad, studying outside Morocco. This is going to be the topic we discuss today with Chaimae, Mehdi,
Hello everyone.
Adam,
Hey guys.
and me, Hasna. So guys, does any one of you know someone who is actually studying abroad?
So actually, my two brothers are studying abroad right now. My two brothers study in France.
Both of them?
Yeah, both of them study in France, as majority of Moroccan.
Do they like it there?
Actually, they like it. One like it more than the other.
And why is that?
Why? Because the oldest one liked it more. Because first of all, he had 21 years or 22, something like that, when he went there. So he was a little bit grown. And the other one went there. He was like this year. He is 18, so he's the more younger. So difficulties about integration. He has a lot of stuff to do at home. He has to prepare his food. He has to prepare all the chores in the house. Yeah.
Do they live together or?
No, they are in separated cities.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are they studying?
The oldest one is studying marketing, and the younger is studying management.
That's
So
good.
it's a little bit similar, but
And what cities do they live in?
the oldest in Lille and Perpignan. Do you know Perpignan?
Yeah, okay.
In the north,
Yeah.
north and south.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's very far.
Okay.
The two cities are far from each other.
Yeah.
And what about you, Chaimae? I thought I heard you're planning to go study abroad.
Yeah, this is true. And also it's a chance to see different culture and different places, and also improve your language and being like
Yes.
yeah.
What are you planning to study there? What do you want to study?
I want to study English there.
Which country?
I choose UK. Yeah. Because I think it's important to improve English.
Which country in the UK?
Russian.
Brighton. So that's
No,
in England,
England.
I think, right?
Yeah.
No, say England. Yeah.
Good.
Okay. Wish you good luck.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And if you finish your studies in a foreign country, would you rather work there or go back to your home country and work here?
I don't know. It depends. If I have like a better chance there.
Okay, we're done. Just kidding, sorry.
So it depends on the opportunity. If I have like a life there, I will stay there. And if I have like good job here in Morocco, I will return to my country.
What about you, Mehdi?
First of all, I did all my studies in Morocco.
Mm-hmm.
So I think your question is if
Would
I
you
s-
like?
would I like to go abroad
Yeah, work
and
there,
study there or work?
work or study.
Yes, why not? It will be, I think it will be a great experience and professional and cultural level. Yeah, why not? Especially in developed countries or in the countries which are very different from Morocco. I think it would be very interesting if I went, for example, to go to Asia or I don't know, South Africa, maybe South America also. I think it would be a great experience,
But you're
especially in a personal level. You will have to experience, different culture, and yeah. So
but you're not planning.
no, no, I'm not.
Okay. What about you, Adam? So
Well.
I know.
Yeah. Mhm.
So if you, but first, did you choose to come to Morocco and work here, or you had to?
No, I chose to come here.
Yeah.
I don't think I necessarily had to, but it was something that I wanted to do it. So I kind of always wanted to study abroad, but then I never really did. I think because I was kind of lazy as a student, and there were always these programs, different language programs and stuff like that I looked at and thought about, like, okay, well, I could try to get this scholarship or do one of these kind of temporary study abroad things, but I never actually did it. But then I was studying and basically working as an English teacher, and so there are probably more opportunities
In America.
abroad. No, actually abroad for
Really?
that than there are, yeah, for English teachers in the United States.
Because that's the native language.
Yeah, right. And so, teaching it as, you can work in universities and stuff like that with international students and foreign students because a lot of people go there to study. But the job market there is much more difficult for more competitive.
But did you think about other countries, or?
Yeah, I did think about other countries, but I always kind of wanted to come to Morocco, actually.
So this is your first experience abroad.
This is my first experience abroad, yeah, living and working abroad. So it's been about a year now that I've been here. Yeah, so, and it was kind of random, like I'd finished my master's, and I had no clue what I was gonna do, because I wasn't gonna be able to, I was working a couple of jobs at the university where I studied, but they were kind of, one of them, there was no more funding for the position, so I wasn't going to get any more money from that. And then the other one was like a student job, so I could only work there for a little bit longer. So I was basically out of work, and so when I finished, then I just saw this. I'd been kind of searching, and I saw a couple of postings for positions in Morocco, and so I applied for them, and I got it, and so, yeah, so it was really like, I kind of went from basically finishing my degree and having no clue what I was going to do to like in a week just deciding like, okay, I'm going to move to Morocco and live. Yeah. It's been good so far.
Because I chose Morocco.
What's that?
You are lucky because you chose
Yeah.
Morocco.
I don't know.
And so if you had the chance to study abroad, where would you go?
I think I probably would have stayed in, I don't know, the same. For me, I mean, I was always more interested in however you want to say it. If you say like kind of North African and Middle Eastern countries, that's always, I don't know why exactly. I just have always been kind of interested in them, and so that's kind of what I studied a little bit of Arabic. I considered maybe trying to do, when I was considering doing study abroad programs, like that's one of the things that I thought that I would do, is try to study another language and learn about the language and the culture and stuff like that, so I could kind of get that experience more than, trying to just go to another school or something like that.
Kind of interesting because the rule is that people from North Africa have have usually they go abroad. So people from North Africa go abroad to Europe or America to study or to work there.
Yeah.
Even Americans go to Europe a lot.
Yeah.
They will come to South Africa.
Yeah.
So this is kind of your unique.
Yeah.
But a lot of the Moroccan people, especially the rich families, put a lot of money for their kids to study abroad.
Right. Yeah.
In Europe and also in the United States and Canada, especially in Canada.
And so why is that?
I think for recognition. I think that people who have degrees from Canada or from the United States, when they come back to Morocco, maybe they have this recognition.
Yeah.
So either it's in the public market job or in the private.
Yeah, they have more chance to get a
Okay.
job.
Especially in the private
degree,
sector.
yeah.
Especially in the
It helps too, though. The same. I mean, for Americans, I think it's a really good. If you've gone and lived and worked somewhere abroad, in another country, a lot of people really like, that's I don't know. I guess it improves your chances in a lot of different fields of getting, jobs and positions. But then at the same time, it's not something that, a lot of people just don't do it. A lot of Americans just don't leave the country. Or study.
I guess there's no better place.
Well, yeah.
For them in this field, there's no better place.
You should study Moroccan art, Arabic students go abroad to study. You should advise them about what they need to stay studying in their countries, because there's a lot of parents saying that their kids to study abroad because they know we have terrible education system and the university school.
In here, terrible education system in Morocco.
Yeah.
You mean? Yeah.
In Morocco, not
Yeah.
just in Morocco.
It's terrible?
It's not that. Yes, actually it is. It is terrible. Yeah. Actually, Morocco, the university in Morocco are ranked among the worst.
Really?
Yes, it's worse than the Iraq is. Yeah, some university in Iraq, 2 universities are ranked more than all the universities in Morocco, and they have war and everything. So Morocco has to work on their educational
So what
system.
do they need to improve? Because I don't know a lot about it.
Everything.
Everything. Okay, but or an example of something. Is it
For example.
is it that you just don't get the experience that you need to?
For example, it's a little bit chaotic because when you're studying in high school, you're studying everything in Arabic, but then when you go to the university, everything is in French.
Oh.
So it's a little bit hard for students. Some students are so good in math and physics and stuff, but in Arabic. And when they go to the university and everything is in French, then they got confused and they just don't get good marks.
Wow.
But if you And then if you want to do research, scientific research
Yeah.
for PhD, you got to do it in English.
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
It's
So this is the
chaotic.
crazy part.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and
nobody in the government are ready to do something about it.
Yeah.
So this is the first. I think the first problem
This
is
is
the
the biggest
language.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So there's a
that's-
lot of different languages
Yes.
going
yeah,
on.
and people are confused.
Yeah, that is confusing, because we worked with a lot of, or I worked with a lot of, when I was doing my master's and stuff and working at the university there, it was a program where people would come from abroad basically to study for a couple of years, enough so that they could get past the tests to get into like U.S. universities. You have to take like TOEFL tests and things like this, and and for the most part, most of the students were just doing it because to do scientific research and stuff like that for their engineering programs and things like this, they just needed to be able to write research articles in English. Write something that they could get published in English. And so even for a lot of them, I think it wasn't even necessarily about like the spoken communication, yeah, it was just being able to kind of like write these big long papers.
Yeah, but I think if we had to choose, I think I will personally I would choose English for my studies in the university, and if we do it in Morocco, I think it would be much better
Yes.
for us.
If everything is taught in English is better than French because English is universal.
Mm.
You can use it wherever you go. But French, it's only like France,
Quebec.
Belgium.
Yeah, friends.
South Belgium.
Yeah.
Really?
Might be
Yeah. There's some places in Canada.
Yeah,
Anyway, it's not like
But
English.
right, yeah.
but they do also the scientific research in English
Yeah.
as well. So what's the point?
Yeah. So, thank you all for this great discussion, and this was it for today's portion of Opinion Piece. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Bye.
So, welcome everyone. We're here talking about the news. My name is Sakinah, and I'm here with my colleague, Adam.
Distinguished colleague.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, Adam here.
Yes, and Mehdi.
Hi everyone.
And Hasna.
Hi again.
Right, okay, so we're kicking off our first news segment talking about the inauguration of America's President, Donald Trump. Right. So just in case if you didn't know what happened, if you didn't know what happened in America in November.
We elected
Yeah,
Donald Trump
exactly.
to be the president.
Of the United States with no
Of a country.
political background whatsoever.
Donald Trump.
Right. Okay. So Donald Trump, we had our election in November, but there is 72 days of transition of power between the former president Barack Obama and the new Trump administration. So Donald Trump was inaugurated on Friday, January 20th, 2017, and I think that all inaugurations are on the 20th, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure they all, at least at some point, it became regular.
It sounds right.
Yeah, that they were all
I
inaugurated.
guess how many inaugurations? I've been alive for 4, 5.
Right,
How
actually,
many?
right,
It's got to be more than 5 because every 4 years.
Right.
6. I guess about 6 now. 6 inaugurations.
But between the first and the second term, it's not that big. Like,
What do you mean?
I mean, it's an inauguration, obviously, but it's not that big when the president, like, he gets the second term.
Oh, when they're
Oh,
re-elected.
okay, like the re-elected president, yeah.
version between him and Barack Obama with Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the dance when they were dancing. Oh my!
Oh wait, I didn't see
They
this
were like
one.
robots.
Yeah, and he
Well, we
was
know
singing,
why.
and then it was funny because he was singing, and it was a Frank Sinatra song, and he was like lip syncing the words, but it was called like My Way.
Okay.
It's a song, and so people were kind of making fun of that because like this idea that he's this narcissistic guy who just wants to do everything
His
his
way.
way,
His
you know,
way.
it's kind of funny. Also, him singing along to I think Three Doors Down.
Wow.
Was-
I don't think I saw that.
Really
I just
special.
blocked all this stuff out.
Yeah, because that was a big thing too, where a lot of, or I don't know if you, so a lot of people wouldn't play.
Right.
Yeah.
Usually they get a lot of really
See.
big, famous, people to play at the presidential inauguration,
And
musicians
singers,
and
yeah.
artists and stuff like that, and people were
No
just
one
kind
wanted
of
to.
refusing to do it. I think there was, because who did Obama had
Obama
like
had Beyonce, Will I Am,
right?
You
Mary
too.
J. Blige,
You too
yeah,
also.
yeah.
And even some of the, like the
Bruce
normal.
Springsteen.
Yeah, but then also like the Rockettes.
Oh, okay.
It's like a.
A band.
Oh,
That,
wow.
how do you call that dancing?
Yeah.
The kick. They kind of like kick their legs.
Oh my gosh, it has a
You
name.
should know.
I should know.
Yeah,
Oh, it's
they're all
Oh,
women.
yeah.
all women.
With those.
Yeah, and then they kind of like see. Yeah, what?
The kick line?
Right.
Yeah. No, I saw the Rockettes when I was in New York. Yeah, I saw them.
So-
They just came off.
I
That's
see a
yeah.
kick line.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a kick line.
Maybe
It's
I
like-
guess I don't
okay,
know.
okay.
Yeah, you can Wikipedia that at home.
Right. Okay, guys, call in and tell us.
Let us know. What are the
Rockettes do?
But so a lot of them were refusing, to, and I guess that's something that's always they've always performed at the presidential inauguration.
Mhm.
So who did he have? He had like Three Doors Down.
Yeah.
Do you guys know Three Doors Down?
No.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Toby Keith.
Yeah,
The
country.
boy?
Yes.
And then I think maybe like a Mormon choir.
Right, probable Trump
Yeah,
supporter.
just really, really small.
I only know the KKK.
Oh.
So,
Well, they didn't perform, as far as I know. At least not in.
The
yeah.
energy company.
Yeah.
What about the crowd?
What about the crowd?
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, let's right, the crowd too, and also like what is an inauguration?
Oh, yeah,
what
what is the
happens?
inauguration?
Yeah. So I have just a couple events that goes on during the inauguration. I'm pretty sure these are in order.
Okay.
So the inauguration starts with the morning worship service. Morning worship service.
I actually
yeah.
did not know that.
And this tradition started with Franklin Delano Roosevelt, 1933.
Okay.
The morning worship service.
So they go to church.
And pray. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, and then there's a procession to the Capitol. So the outgoing president, Barack Obama, accompanies the president-elect to the Capitol. And then the vice president is sworn in. So our vice president, who's our vice president? Mike Pence.
Yeah.
Right. He's definitely a
That
non-factor.
guy.
Yeah, anyway. So then the vice president is sworn in, like on the Bible, I swear to uphold the duties of America. Then the president is sworn in. And then the inaugural address is where the president speaks. And fun fact, George Washington had the shortest inaugural speech with 173 words.
Wow.
People
So,
count.
a man of yeah, I guess people counted, yeah. And then there is the departure of the outgoing president. So if you saw clips, you saw Michelle and Barack walk into the helicopter and then they flew away. So the departure. So then after that, there's a lunch, inaugural luncheon, and then there's the parade, and then there's the inaugural ball, which is like the fancy evening
Yeah.
ball where you wear your nice clothes. I think this is where How old
Like,
is he?
like father, like son.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
He's got to be, 12 or 13?
Yes.
I don't know anything about the new first family.
Yeah, well.
Here we go. Or Mike Pence. What's his wife's name? Does anyone know who the second lady is?
No. I thought Mike Pence hated women. So-
Right, exactly. I'm surprised he got me married.
Yeah.
Right.
Fun.
Okay, good. So there we go.
So
That's
then the
inauguration.
inaugural ball. Okay, so that's the inauguration. So the crowd.
I heard that the crowd in the Women's March was more, the number was bigger than the ones who came to the inauguration.
Mhm.
Is that true?
Right. I don't know if we know like the facts, but I also heard this same thing that even Barack Obama, Donald Trump, he said that there were maybe 1.5 million people, but these crowd scientists said like no, and that the Women's March had a lot more people.
So what is the Women's March?
Right.
That's.
Yeah. Right.
For those of you, so it was a really big deal, though,
Yeah.
right? I mean, this was so basically, if
He
you're
was
not
rejected
familiar,
from the first
what?
day.
Yeah, right. And so so just a little info here. So it was a grassroots movement,
Right.
meaning that it was basically someone just I think they said, hold on, let me see, Teresa Shook of Hawaii.
She shook him.
So someone basically, she created a Facebook page
Yeah.
suggesting that women, that they do this women's march, basically as a protest to Donald Trump
Exactly.
being inaugurated as president, because there's a lot of different things that policy things that he's planned that have impact women and their ability to their rights, their ability to get health care.
Mhm.
So that's kind of how it started. And yeah, so they're estimating crowd scientists.
Yeah, that's right.
Who knew?
Yeah, exactly. I heard this and I'm
You
like, what is
study-
a crowd scientist? How do you become a crowd scientist?
But
Like,
they're-
what
yeah.
do you study to be a crowd scientist?
Yeah, crowds, I guess.
I
But they're saying, so people are estimating that about 250,000 showed up to Donald Trump's inauguration,
Mhm.
and then about 500,000 to the Women's March just in Washington, D.C.,
Exactly.
which would be about twice as much. And then, of course, another meme that was circulating was pictures of the crowd size comparing Barack Obama's inauguration to Donald Trump's inauguration. And you can see lots of open space and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of celebrities participated in the march.
Yeah.
From what I have seen.
Where is he going? I mean, if protests already started, then
And he has been
And he-
president for like a week.
for like
Yeah.
a week,
Yeah.
how is he going to stop that?
And some people are even saying they're estimating that between 3,600,000 and 4,600,000 people worldwide
Right.
participated in these marches.
No one wants him.
Yeah, so they're saying 408 marches were planned in the U.S. and 81 other countries.
Right.
Actually,
Wow.
so it's not just the U.S. thing. I guess. It's
Supposed to
global
be there a
issue.
law that prevents him from
Continuing. Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I wonder
But-
what could have like.
There is an
maybe
impeachment.
stop him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if the people just don't want
After
him
2
to be
years.
president,
After
what
2
can
years.
happen legally? Like,
After 2 years, yes. After 2 years, I think he could be impeached.
Yeah, but they have
Yeah.
to. But the impeachment process, they have to find. I don't know.
It's
how.
very difficult actually. It's the Congress with the.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really.
The man
long-
has money. I don't
Yeah.
think he's going.
he's not going
Anywhere.
You know what would be even worse is if he runs again and gets reelected.
Oh my god.
It happened with George
George
W.
W. Bush,
You know,
yeah,
and
he
that
should
was
have won that.
yeah. That was a.
That's
never
rich.
know. Like
Right.
if I told you this before 2 years, you will
Be laughing.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
will be
like
laughing
this
at me.
is a
Yeah.
farce. Yeah, yeah, it's true. And I'll admit too, when I heard that he was the Republican nominee, and I can remember too, right on the election night, and my students were asking me, like, who do you think's gonna win? I was like, oh, there's no way Donald Trump's gonna win.
Yeah.
And then I go into class on Thursday, like I watched the whole election. I couldn't even sleep, and I was just in shock. Like, wow, this actually happened. Like he actually won.
And also, because at that time I was in Marrakesh, and as you know, in Marrakesh there is a lot of tourists out there.
Mm-hmm.
So I have met some Americans
Mm-hmm.
at that time when he was when he get the the Republican nomination, and I was talking with them, and every one of them told me that it's like just the nomination, but in the general election it's very different, and he can be president. But they were wrong.
Yeah.
So there's a big question mark. Like, who voted for him?
Yeah.
If half of the country is against him, like more than half of the country, who voted? How did he win?
I think America will be fine. I think those people need to calm down. I think that America will be fine. It's a very strong country, and I don't think it's about one person.
It's not about
It's not
one
about
person,
yeah.
but it is about the people that. Well, so again, back to the reason, so for some of the reasons for the march, I think, and it's really it's interesting because it doesn't seem like it's just about, women, right?
Yeah.
But they were actually, saying, so it has a lot to do with, well, first off, there's a lot of things with him wanting to repeal the
about the healthcare is that he's gonna repeal it, but he has no plan.
Right, they haven't offered any alternative.
He just said, I'm gonna
We don't
repeal
want
it
this,
something
yeah.
much better, much great.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have any plan. Doesn't have
Right, and I think the idea is that they want to go back to the kind of free market health insurance, meaning that, you know, before it was kind of just you buy your own insurance. You know, maybe maybe your employer provided it, but most people weren't obligated to give you health insurance, for example, if you were working or something like that. And so once you got to a certain age, you just kind of, you know, so a lot of people just live without any kind of health insurance. So if something happens, you know, and you get sick and you go to the hospital and then you have like a $50,000 bill or something like this, and you don't have, right, people, you know, get into huge amounts of debt and they can't pay it, and then who pays it, you know, the hospitals or the taxpayers. Anyways, but, you know, and health insurance companies had like no regulations on how, you know, so sometimes they would just, you know, with a lot of these things, a lot of the things that the Affordable Care Act did were like trying to get rid of what they call pre-existing conditions, which this means it's this fancy insurance term for, so you get sick, you go to the doctor, you send a claim to your insurance, but your insurance can say, oh, well, you've had this problem before, so we're not going to pay for it.
Like
So-
a device?
Yeah, like,
Like a
so that
device.
doesn't cover it. So, like, and this would happen with people under some really, like, even like people who needed cancer treatment and stuff like this. Insurance, you know, and you like, okay, so I paid for insurance for 10, 15 years every month, and then I get sick, and then they say we're not going to cover it, right? So that was one of the things that the ACA wanted to get rid of, right? But then there's kind of like this, no, too much regulation on the insurance companies. It causes problems for business. We need to let the business do what they want, man.
But this is crazy. Like you had it before.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
what?
Yeah.
What? Cancer?
No, I remember having, right, no, I remember having, going to the doctor for something, and they were just like, no, we won't pay for it. They just did, like, my insurance company was just like, we'll do this. You know, and I had to call, and I remember I spent like 2 hours on the phone, you know, basically, and thankfully the person that I talked to was nice enough that she was like, okay, she's like, we can figure out a way that we can like file this, you know, like I had to call my doctors and tell them to like, when they filed all my paperwork, to like file it under some weird name.
so it can go
That
through.
way it would actually go through the insurance company and they would pay for it. Because she was like, the way that they're filing it now is what, you know, whatever, you know, she's like, they're not going to pay for it and they're not going to pay for the medicine. You know, it's just, yeah. So, fun times in
Yeah.
the US.
And they're coming back.
Yeah, it's part of the platform. Make America great again.
I think the one thing that, I think about the healthcare, I think he can't stand the name of. I think he hates Obamacare. Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah, but part of the thing is though, it's not called Obamacare. It's called the Affordable. But a lot of the
I think Obamacare is the plan. I think
no,
it was the plan.
most of the Republican Party started calling it
Called it
Obamacare.
Obamacare.
That way, people who hated Obama would hate the plan.
Yeah.
And so Obamacare is just like a nickname. There was nothing legal about Obamacare. This is just what they. And so there's actually even like I've seen some of my friends on Facebook are now sharing this post that lists a lot of the things that are actually going away. You know, and it's like to everyone who voted to repeal Obamacare,
Lyndon B. Johnson was the vice president. JFK was assassinated on his way.
Wow.
Air Force One, and then he
That's
was
interesting.
sworn in.
I guess it's really urgent.
Yeah, it is.
Just
Like,
swear
you
on
gotta-
something like,
Yeah.
you gotta do it now. We can't wait till you get up.
Yeah, and then my favorite, and I can totally agree, Richard Nixon didn't want any pigeons at his parade. And I absolutely hate pigeons. They are the worst.
How did they get rid of the pigeons?
Right, exactly. Let me see. Okay. He requested that tree branches along the parade route be treated with a chemical called Roost No More, which will supposedly make the birds' feet itch, so they wouldn't want to perch above his motorcade.
Okay.
And they spent $13,000 to get rid of all of the pigeons for his parade. All right, there you have it, guys. The news segment. And we'll see.
I saw you standing there and I knew I'm done for, it's over, I'm through. Oh, and playing games from